Okay, Bismillah. So today's session, I think we are already live.
Mhm.
Alhamdulillah. Assalamualaikum. So welcome back, Brother Muhammad. And today, Sister Hudan is also joining us to monitor the Q&A, if there are any. Um, so we're going to get started. Welcome back, Brother Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum. How are you today?
Walaikum salam barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, it's fantastic. Juma, best day of the week. What more can I say? So,
Yep, Juma gems, right? So
Mhm. Hmm.
hopefully, yeah. One thing, quick thing about the gem is that I think I learned from Muhammad al-Sharif. Gem is the first meaning is like a gemstone. The other thing is like genuinely enlightened moments. So
Hmm.
that was a good acronym, and I hope we'll share it with the audience as well. Last time, if you remember, we discussed about inner dialogue and noticing the good voice versus bad voice. And today, as far as I remember, your topic is how to befriend the inner critic, right?
Correct.
And listen to that, and sometimes we do need feedback. Sometimes we do need the right correction, but most of the times we take it too seriously and begin to downgrade ourselves. So the question is to figure out when is when, and I guess to get to get the right feedback, I guess. So without further ado, take it away. So let's start. Bismillah.
Sure thing. Much appreciated. So, if I can, while I have the opportunity to share my screen here, I wanted to first start off and by acknowledging those of you, if this is your first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're returning, then just want to say thank you so much for your support because, at the end of the day, it all comes down to, a little bit of time every Friday makes a big difference. It's like, it's like things slowly build up. Rasul taught us that it's the smallest of deeds, but most consistent that really add up in the end. So kudos to you all. Now, for those of you who are wondering what is befriending your inner critic and what is this session all about, the biggest takeaway that you're going to get out of this humble time that I have with you, that you will be able to turn your resistance into assistance. Sometimes we are our own worst critic, but how do you make friends with that so that way you don't feel the weight on your shoulders, that heaviness of guilt or that heaviness of tragedy? How can you instead turn things around into befriending your inner critic so that you can use things to your advantage? So turning resistance into assistance, that's the goal that you're going to get out of this. And I invite you, if you're live, like if you're with us live, like Sister Hodan, Jazakallah khairan for monitoring the Q&A, by all means, it's a two-way street. I'm at your service. And even if, let's just say you're watching the recording of this, still, you're more than welcome to leave your comments. I always find that we're talking about gems, those genuine enlightened moments. I always find a lot of gems in the comment section. Believe me, I learn just as much from you than us having this conversation. So that's what just to start things off, it's a two-way street. And without further ado, let's go into this with befriending your inner critic with Kalam. Now, one of the things to start things off is I always like to begin with definitions, making sure we're on the same page. Sometimes we might be talking about the same thing, but we mean different. We have a different meaning. So making sure we're all on the same page and we're in the same library. Then I'm going to dive into an activity that you can instantly apply right away. I always don't believe in just talking the talk. Although this is all about communication, it's not just about talking the talk, it's walking the talk, right? That's how it is. In addition to that, the biggest differentiating factor here with Kalam is that we're rooted in the Quran and Sunnah in terms of communication strategies. I'm more than sure that you've seen your fair share of communication workshops elsewhere, and it's great. You get a lot of benefit from that, but imagine we can merge the two with our faith. And then last but certainly not least, if you have any questions on this, you're more than welcome to share that. So start things off. What on earth is your inner critic? So Brother Maruf, if I was to ask you on the spot here, how would you define inner critic?
Inner critic, my definition would be the voice you hear in your head, and that's giving you, I guess, critic, something like that. Is it?
Interesting.
That's
Fair
my
enough.
definition.
Got it. Yeah. So that's a good point. Now, for again, like I mentioned, we may all seem the same thing, but we don't mean the same thing. And so and you hit the ballpark right there. The simplest, 3 simple words, how I would look at inner critic is just simply internal negative commentary. Why? Inner is inside, it's internal. And I always thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we don't have the ability to think of other people's thoughts. Some people might have that superpower or wish they had that superpower, but believe you me, you would not want that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this blessing that the fact that you keep your internal secrets, you have your own inner dialogue, keeping it to you. Imagine if everybody could speak, and you can hear everything all the time. So the fact that it's number one, it's internal, it's reserved for you. Secondly, when it comes to critic, a lot of times people associate it with the negative, right? People think that when it's an inner critic, it's a lot of negative things associated with it. It's not usually with the positive. So negative is what it is. And it's commentary. So commentary, if you're into sports, what do you have in the background? People, when they're talking, they give commentary. The person is doing the action. The person is shooting a goal. That person is taking that shot. And then you hear the commentators going wild. It's just commentary, right? You're just noticing certain things from a distance. But at the end of the day, it's all swirling inside. And this commentary, you may be performing a certain action. And just like you have those commentaries like, oh my gosh, look who's going. Yeah, let's keep it going. Oh my, did you see that or this? Now imagine all of that is negative. And that's where this whole inner critic comes in. So having said that, you can imagine, Brother Maruf, you can imagine that this can be debilitating at times. If you're not your own personal cheerleader, then who else will be your guide? If you rely on external forces, sometimes your own family and friends can turn against you, right or wrong. You're set out on a course, you're saying I'm going to do something, and sometimes the people who love you the most will be the ones who are your own worst enemy. But at the end of the day, if you and I are not building ourselves up with this inner critic, then what else can we say? So now, jumping right into this actual little fun imagery here, if you're, anxiety, no pun intended here with anxiety. Actually, in this case, it is pun intended. So with anxiety, check out some of the things that this poor cup of tea is thinking about. What if no one likes me? What if I taste weird? What if I'm too cold? What if I'm too hot? What if I'm just right and I can never live up to it again? Now, can you tell me, Brother Maruf, I'm curious, if I may, are these somewhat related? What are some things that you find people tend to say, or that you've noticed in your line of work, or maybe in your personal life, that you've noticed some inner commentary happening when you're trying to pursue a goal?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think I don't know. I don't have the power what people think, right? So I can only tell from what I think. I think over and over, what I really notice if I want to do something, one of the things keep coming up is, what is the word? I think there's a word is, I don't get much inner critic, like you are, like I don't get much critic, like you are this bad or that, but more likely like, yeah, let's do it tomorrow. Can we, like procrastination, right? Not necessarily that thing. That one of the things is that, alhamdulillah, we have this, Allah wants to give us the prayers, right? We have the prayers, you have to pray. And there is a way you can be grateful what you have. I think these are the keys to take care of most of the self negative talk, right? This is what we are talking about. And being grateful where you are, I think it will take you there. But I think still, as I said, this is something you should never think this it will go away. It's nagging on your head. You know what I mean? So for me, like if someone is nagging on my head and you don't want to do it, it means it seems like, oh, this is something I should do. Because I don't know if you heard of Seth Godin. He's one of the marketing and thought leaders. In his writings, he called this the lizard brain, the brain that the core and it's very lazy. They don't want to. The fear comes from there. All those emotions come from there. And he talks about and is the whole purpose of that is like trying to steer away from the important work. I think there's a seen principle called the resistance. That whatever you want to do something, it resists. For example, if you want to write that blog article, it resists. It's just in a blank page, right? This is, in my case, this is much more applicable than I would say the inner critic. But at the same time, sometimes you talk to people and something happens, they talk really bad things to themselves. They would never say to anybody else, but they say to themselves, you are fat, you are this, you cannot never do this. And so why would you tell to yourself? You know, it's, I don't know. And that's what it is. They're talking
Interesting.
really bad to themselves. I think that's why the first four sessions is inner critic, because if you don't know what you're talking, if you don't fix that, and forget about your conversation with us oneself, forget about your conversation communication with other people, because you will never get there. Because if you cannot treat yourself properly, how can you treat other people properly?
100%. If you can't treat yourself properly, how can you treat others properly? And that's the goal here. At least as a starting point, you live with yourself. You're in your own skin every single day. We were born on this planet alone, and we're going to be buried alone. So if you're not happy with who you are, then that's going to be, if you're beating yourself up over and over again, then what chance do you and I have if we keep having this? So the one remark I have to say, mashallah, Brother Maruf, Jazakallah khairan for sharing that, is with inner critic, you can already see it takes different forms and shapes. Sometimes for some people, maybe the inner critic is, I'm too this, I'm too that, or I can't do this, I can't do that. Or what if, look at that, what if I taste weird? What if I'm too cold? What if nobody likes me? All these insecurities start showing up, and it just starts presenting themselves and manifesting themselves. But in your case, it's more on the opposite end, and not necessarily saying this is the insecurity. It's more like I'm holding things off. But in turn, if you keep holding things off, and I'm sure I've been in this situation myself, where then tensions start to boil and rise, and then the thoughts come in. So as a result of us not being able to fulfill our tasks on time or what we expect, these thoughts then come in. Well, what if I'm incompetent? Well, what if I'm not really the greatest of that I think I'm not as great as I think I am? So 100% great stuff. And again, that's anxiety. If this is your cup of tea, then we'll see how this is just one way of looking at things. But I'm always into practical stuff. I'm always into activities that you can do right here, right now. If you're on live with us, by all means, you're welcome to join us. And if you are watching the recording, again, you can type it in the comments. And essentially, this whole what I want to introduce is reframing. Essentially, we're trying to take tragedy into triumph. We're trying to look at things with a new lens, taking the same situation that you've embarked upon and looking at it with a new way. It's almost like putting on a new pair of glasses, so to speak. Or even another way I've heard it been put, it's like an Instagram filter. You have the same photo, change the filter, change your perception. So that's what it's all about. Reframing is just taking the same problem, reframing it so that way you can have a new situation. So I have three situations, Brother Maruf, if you're welcome to join in and see how we can reframe this. It seems devastating. How can we reframe this into something, or at least take something away from that? So situation number one, for all those of you who are students, it's probably one of the worst fears of all. You failed your final exam and have to restart your course all over again. Tragedy, right? Pretty bad. Brother Maruf, you want to take a stab at it? What would you say? How could you reframe this in your mind, or at least derive something out of it?
Yeah, I think like it depends like how much you have prepared for the final exam, and if it's like years and years, like you gotta first thing, I mean, to be honest, as much as you're a positive person, the first thing is you're gonna feel this remorse. It's, oh man, I just didn't make it, right? That's what I would feel. Again, on the other hand, that recently I was talking to this person. He said, I failed my exam the first time. But what you can do, look at another way, is that, so it means that you don't know enough yet, right? So it's better for you to go and review, which will, as you know, the repetition is the mother of knowledge, right? You will repeat, you will learn better, so you're ready. Whatever you want to do. Imagine if you're a doctor, right? If you cannot pass the exam, it means you may kill somebody. It's better to go and study again, right? And do the things properly so you can actually help. At the end of the day, yes, you feel bad because you have to go and learn things again. But on the other hand, that this is something, the right thing to do, right? So you have to look at like reframing is, okay, I'm going to repeat, I'm going to learn things better now. That's what I would do. I don't know.
Fair enough. Amazing. There you go. The way I would look at this is twofold. One, on the one side, I would say if I was in this situation, the one way I would look at it is how many people have had the exact same situation as me, but still ended up becoming great in their field. You hear it time and time again, people failing. And, for one example, Abraham Lincoln, regardless of whether or not you agree with his policies or the way he ran the country, if you study how he got to become a president, this guy failed time and time again. And so I look at this and say, well, this is the path of the greats. That's one thing. And on the second side, or on the another side, one way to reframe it is maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us, like, sometimes what you don't get is a blessing. Because if you do get it, then it could end up in problems. So we don't want to revert to that. You connect the dots backwards, but at the same time, looking at it and saying, all right, let's give it a try. Is this something worthwhile? And knowing that other people have gone through this before, it is what it is. So that's one way you can reframe it, to say, all right, let's be more productive. All right, situation number 2. You just lost your job after working there for 10 years, a decade. So it's not like a small thing. The pandemic has hit. This is a reality for many, many people. Brother Maruf, how would you reframe the situation?
Yeah. Look, maybe I'm not the right person to ask the question. I've not worked for a job for the last 10, 12, 15 years. But I mean, I can still try to put myself in someone else's shoes. If someone in this day and age, they look for a job that's stable, that's going to be provided for their whole lifetime, first and foremost, they have to change their mindset, right? I mean, those days are gone. We cannot find any jobs anymore that kind of, like, if you remember back in days, right? You go to a factory, you go to your job when you're 25, and from the same factory after 40 years, you can retire. Like we're not working industrial age anymore. It's information age, right? You have to really understand the stakes at play. So first of all, anybody who's relying on a job for a long time, I'm not talking about any job like you can go and do, you can do it, but don't rely on a job of being a lifetime thing. You have to change how you look at things. But anyway, in this case scenario, if you lose your job after 10 years, so it seems it indicates you lost your job. It means whatever happened, you lost it. Like, it's not your fault. You didn't get fired, but you lost it, right? So in this case, you have to remember that the provider is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? As a Muslim, that's what we believe in. He's Ar-Razzaq, that if this is what happened, it is what it is. You're just gonna look at your life. Okay, what have you learned in these 10 years? What can you do? Can you go and get another job, right? I mean, one of the things people understand is that you may have lost your job, but you still have your skills, right? You still have that knowledge. It's within you. You cannot lose it, right? Unless you get some serious sickness mentally or something else, you still have all those experiences. You still have your network. You can go and get another one. That's what I think.
MashaAllah, look at that. See, just because you lost your job doesn't mean that you lost your skill set.
Nope.
And that's a wonderful way to put it. For those of you who are familiar with Steve Jobs, if you're familiar with his biography, you will know that the very company he founded, which is Apple, he got fired from it. How do you get fired from a company you started? But I remember what he said was, it felt good to be a beginner again. And he said that was where the creative juices were at his all-time high.
It made him humble. It made him really humble.
It made him humble. You're right. And there's another way to reframe it. As a Muslim, you realize this world doesn't belong to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give and take at any time, and you don't have anything. You and I have nothing to say for it. So mashallah, it's another way. There you go, to reframe the situation of losing your job. Now, here's the last one. You just lost your home after a natural disaster. This is a tragedy, really, really bad, you can imagine. Brother Maruf, if you can put yourself in someone's shoes, they lost their home. There was a tornado, there was a hurricane, there was a flood. How can I reframe this into a positive?
That's a tough one. Because as a family, I mean, that's a basic need. You need something to shelter, right? As much as you're a positive person, you get really devastated when your home is, you know, um, in that state. Um, I think the one way to look at it is sometimes things happen that's out of your control, right? You cannot control them. This is natural disaster. This is storms. This is hurricanes, and it doesn't happen to you specifically that take you, right. It may happen to a region, whatever that region is. If you look around, you see that you're not the only one. Your neighbors had the same issue, or others had the same issue. And so when things happen like this, you have to understand that things happen out of your power. You have no control. The only thing you have control is how you react to it, right? Like that's what we're discussing. How we're going to react to it is that, depending where you are, if you are, let's countries like Canada or US, maybe you have a home insurance, right? Maybe they will take care of it. You just have to live for a couple of months in a hotel, right? Until you get a new home. On another way to look at it is that just a reminder, this life, you don't want to settle in life and be comfortable for a long time. Maybe it's just a reminder that this is that sooner or later, as you said, you come here alone, you go alone. It's just a reminder that don't be too comfortable wherever you are. And on a positive note, that you can say maybe there was things you didn't like about your house. Maybe if you're building a new house, you can build it a new way. I know I'm just trying to see a positive note
Yeah,
in this, but it's not easy. And trust me, losing a
I
home is not easy.
mashallah, bro. But you did wonderful. There you go. In a situation that you would think is complete 100% darkness, complete 100%, oh my goodness, like, and we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to, for anyone who is in this situation, is definitely not, it's not lip service, just, saying it as it is. However, what you do find is, like, with every light, there's a silver lining, because you notice, you're right, it's not just, a tornado doesn't just hit one home, unless that's something really specific. But it's, you notice, like, one of the things that you notice as a byproduct, the community coming together, people, you see humanity flourish again, and you
That's
can
right.
say to yourself, alhamdulillah, I'm safe. It didn't hurt me, it didn't hurt my kids, didn't hurt my family. As long as it's just a house, bricks can be replaced. Who cares? Like, at the end. But again, it's not easy. If you're outside, not belittling this, however, noticing that there is a way for you to get better. There is a way. It's not like it's impossible. People have lost their homes, rebuilt homes. People have been temporarily homeless, and they ended up finding it. So it's not like it's a complete 100% disaster. Now, if you notice, with all of these, it's slowly escalated in terms of severability, right? Like, of how bad it could be. You feel your exam, depending on the exam, is one thing. Losing your job is another thing. Then losing your home, the place you call home, where's your keys and everything. Imagine that's gone. At the end of the day, the reframing strategy can be used at lower levels, day-to-day situations. You had a fight with a cashier. How can you reframe that? Or it could be really tragic. So at the end of the day, it's, if we train ourselves better, more and more, myself included, then you'll see things happen. Now, there's just one caveat to this conversation. We don't fool ourselves. If you're familiar with this meme, I'm sure those of you who've seen this online, see this little dog here, just sitting in a burning place, and he's just saying, this is fine, this is great, this is fantastic. I'm feeling the heat, I'm getting warmed up. Actually, it warms up his coffee pretty well. That's not what we're saying here when we're talking about reframing. Just echoing what you mentioned, Brother Maruf. Somebody losing their home is not fun. Telling somebody stay positive during that time is not fun. This is not what people want to hear. The key and the caveat to this whole situation is somebody, all right. The whole caveat to this conversation is being productive. Look at this little dog right here. Is it productive for him sitting down, noticing that his house is on fire? You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, reframing is that you don't wallow in self-pity. You don't wallow in this problem. Although how bad it is, how do we quickly get on the right track here? So that's the caveat to this conversation, just to make it abundantly clear. And again, for those of you tuning in and those of you who are watching the recording, you can try your own way. How do you reframe these situations? Give it a shot. Love to hear how you would reframe these situations in a productive way. Now, the next section here, let me give a little background real quick. As Muslims, mashallah, one of the biggest things as part of our faith is believing in the unseen. And that includes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator. That includes the angels that are made from light. And that also includes the jinn that are made from smokeless fire. And how is this related to us, especially when it comes to this inner critic and befriending our inner critic? What does that have to do with us? And there's this concept called qarin, where you, me, everybody is born with a companion jinn. And here's a quick reference right here to have an idea if you have never heard of this before. The Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be and blessings be upon him, said, each of you has a devil companion from the jinn over him. They said, even you, O Messenger of Allah? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, even me, yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped me against him until he embraced Islam. He does not order me to do anything but good. Now, pause for a quick second here. Two things to note. Number one, there's no exceptions. All of us are born with this. Even the messenger, the cream of the crop, the best of the best, the greatest example in human history, he was assigned this companion jinn. And what is this companion jinn? And number two is that the companion jinn, the whole idea is to steer us off the tracks, get us off the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's deen, to cast doubt, have this inner critic, being not productive, wasting time, wallowing in self-pity, just overall not being able, saying that everything is just problematic. So here's Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam right from the beginning saying, look, that's why I'm saying why are we saying befriending your inner critic? You can't, people sometimes they say, just get rid of the inner critic, just drown out that noise, just mind your own business, or just shut out the no voice. And just what we're saying is that, look, at the end of the day, no matter how hard you try, this companion jinn will always be here. This companion will be here with you. And why, you might say? What's the point? Why do I have this jinn? Why can't I just, brush him off, or just, the whole idea is that where's the test, you can say, is that if everything was going well, that's like
everything is part of design.
Exactly, everything is part of design. Imagine you, brother Maruf, you want to be a doctor, and all of a sudden you walk into the exam filled with, passing with flying colors, mashallah. No struggles, no obstacles, no nothing. You tell me, would people make a movie about that?
Probably not.
Probably not, because they're saying, where's the struggle? Where's the conflict? Where's the tension? Where's the problem? The greatest thing for us as Muslims is that we recognize it and we still fight against it, or we still try to struggle against it. That's where the real thing happens. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights a scene in the Quran. In Surah Qaf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, one's devilish associate. So devil, you'll see that's the word, qarin, like that's the word that's used. One devilish associate will say, our Lord, I did not make them transgress. Rather, they were far astray on their own. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will respond, do not dispute in my presence, since I had already given you a warning. So what does this mean? Let me pause for a second here. Picture this scene, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from this. And it's frightening to think about from time to time. It's the day of judgment. Everybody is on their own. The people you love, the people the people that you thought were friends, you're on your own. I'm on my own. We're all standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in front of our deeds. Here comes this individual is pointing finger at this qarin, his companion jinn. You told me that, to do this. And the companion jinn will say, I didn't say that. Like, I just whispered. I had no control over you. I just doing that. So they're bickering in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, playing this blame game. And here's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, don't dispute in my presence. I had already given you a warning. And what is that warning? The messengers. The message has already come to us. And that's what I wanted to highlight with us, and including myself in this conversation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already given us the tools. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already given us everything. People, Brother Maruf, I ask you this. Let's say outside of this context, have you ever seen people constantly play the blame game? It's this person's fault. It's her fault. It's his fault. And they point their fingers. What do you make of that, in my opinion? What do you say, or what's your observation about folks who constantly play the blame game?
One thing I understood is that until a person begins to take responsibility, and this is the mark of adulthood, until you take responsibility, you're still a child. Like it doesn't matter what you do. And this is the first step to anything makes sense. Like you have to take responsibility, especially if it's something you did. You just take responsibility and say, okay, that's my fault. I'm going to fix it. And nothing is going to help you, like by pointing fingers. You just have to take responsibility. That's the first step, right? To fix anything.
Exactly.
My take on this one is that you mentioned a couple of very interesting angles. Is one thing we have to remember, like as a Muslim, what we say is right. The reason we become Muslim is that we say there's no God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Prophet Muhammad is his messenger, right? And servant and messenger. What we are saying is basically, God, that you are my ilah, you are the only true God, which I'm going to put you in the center of my life. And I do that by the following example of the Prophet, right? That's what it means, isn't it? This is what it means. So if that is the case, if that is the frame, worldview, as you said, we are playing as Muslims, is that's okay. So how do you play this? What is the stake it here? And if you learn that, as you said, when we go back to Quran, and when you learn, we also understand the part of the design for us. So if you go back to very creation, right? Like why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us? Why are we here? Like to test, right? How would you test an agent like us with a free will? By giving choices, good or bad, right? And to do that, there are some suggestive mechanisms. So look at and there's also actually not only devilish companion, there's also angelic companion as well, right? Every person has it, not only the bad things. Remember, always also to give a balance. So in our heads, we hear the good voices, we hear the bad voices. However, though, they will never force us to do anything, do they? So it's just a suggestions of being like up to 5,000 to 6,000 per day. This is what we discuss in a dialogue. The first thing is to understand the game. The game is what? The game is I'm being tested. I'm like in a matrix, right? I'm a big simulation. That's what we are, isn't it? Right now we are in simulation. Every single second, we are giving different options. But we know where they're coming from as well, right? But alhamdulillah. And the question is, which ones we take? Which path are we taking in every single moment? We are testing different things. And that many people, like I, including myself, I didn't understand. True purpose of Salah is that people say, oh, you have to pray. When I was, you have to pray. I don't understand as a kid, why do I have to pray? I don't like to pray, honestly. And I would ask them, does God need my prayer? I said, no. Allah doesn't need your prayer. What do you have to pray? I said, okay, give me explanation. If Allah SWT doesn't need my prayer, he's already most high, he's already a thing, he doesn't need my prayer. I'm just a small guy. Who am I? I'm just going to live my life. It was my selfish talking, but I didn't really understand the concept. The concept is, yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if all the humanity today stopped praying, stopped glorifying his name, it would not take anything out of him, right? He's already most high. It's not, we don't need it. So why are we praying? So why we're praying is actually it's for us, right? First and foremost, what we're doing is we are reminding the promise we made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We said, remember, everything we do is Allahu Akbar, right? What does it really mean? And some say Allah is the greatest. No, actually it means Allah is greater. The question is greater than what or when? Whatever you are going through, whatever you are thinking at any moment. If you're worried about something, Allah is greater than that. If you are thinking of bad problems, it's just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala greater than. Remember the act. Remember the game. That's part of the game, right? Everything. That's why we are every day 5 times we have recalibrating. Are we still in the path? Are we still on the thing? That's why we ask for guidance, right? To be on a straight path. So it's like for us, the GPS recalibration every 5 times a day. We are recalibrating, so we don't forget. We don't remember what game we are in. We just don't forget the forces at play, right? As a human being, That's the true power of salah, right? That's why after we take the promise, shahada, we are saying, I'm bear witness. God, you're in your uniqueness. We are saying that. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. When we are being witness, and then the next thing is to remember. And another purpose of salah is being grateful. So not just saying like blindly and saying alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. No. Whenever you're just saying alhamdulillah, just taking a moment, pause, what you're grateful for. Imagine you want to earn more money. And that's one of the paradoxes I learned is that what people think is that, oh, I don't make my money. Like they focus on the negativity. I don't make my money. How do I make my money? No. Instead of you have to flip the coin. First you say, oh, Allah, thank you very much for providing me even this much. Thank you. I sincerely not. You cannot trick this. You cannot trick this thinking because Allah knows your inner thoughts. You have to be genuinely grateful what you earn, and do your best to earn more. And if you can, even from this moment, try to give to someone, and just watch what happens to your wealth. Does it make sense? So once you learn these lessons, because everything that's happening in our life, every problem, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to grow out of that. If you don't grow, the same thing keep coming. It's like a level in the game, right? You have to pass that level. When you pass that level, you will face a different problem, and then you have to go another problem so you can go away. But what we do is that we just keep getting the same problem and giving the same thoughts again and again. So to win the game is that you have to change the mindset to understand the game at play. And so it's like every time the problem gets a bit leveled up, and so hopefully you will also get skills to level up in the game. At the end of the day, what we really want to do, Brother Muhammad and everybody who's listening, is that we want to go to in the day of judgment, right? Do you remember the surah? It mentions there are people with a radiant in their faces. They're giving their book in their right hand. They are so happy. They're showing people, oh, look at my book, what I did. Look, and it's like they're so happy. I think this is the true ultimate. This is what you want to do, I guess. To do that, you know what the issue is? I'm sorry, I'm just the issue is that what the Muslim community, I think not only Muslim and the whole humanity, is that we are in a state of just living through. I'm gonna live my life just a very average. I don't want to go up and down, and that's the problem. And I think the thing is that life itself is a gift, isn't it? Life itself is a gift. We are just limited time here. So what are we going to do? What is the amazing thing we're going to do? What is the Muhammad is going to do? What's Maruf, what's Hudan, what's Fatima, what's Abdullah is going to do something amazing for the humanity. And to do that, you need to learn, right? You need to know why you are here. And you have to take action to do what you want to do. It's not easy. Once you begin to do those things, and you will begin to know your true gift. What is you're really good at? What's your power? And once you are on your journey, on your power, following your purpose and passion, and all the problems in this world become so small. You know what I mean? Yeah, there'll still be problems. Problems will never go away. But once you have a higher purpose, once you have a higher vision, as they say, like once you know your why, the how becomes easy. So you don't look at the problems ever again. And the first step towards that is just to know what's going on, what's the game, inner dialogue, to master that. And once you master that, then everything else, inshallah, becomes much easier.
MashaAllah, Brother Maruf, dropping a whole bag of gems right here and there. SubhanAllah, from the beginning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is greater, noticing that salah is recalibration, leveling up. Man, that's amazing stuff. And SubhanAllah, that's what it all boils down to. Just knowing your place, knowing where you are, knowing where you're going.
Knowing the game. What is the game?
Right? Yeah. What is the game of life? Exactly. So again, for those viewers out there, if you want to learn more about Qareen, that's something I would invite you to consider. This is when we're taught with the whole idea is befriending your inner critic. This is something perhaps we may not be acutely aware of. How often do you hear this in lectures or in things like that? This is something that maybe to look into. Now, I want to leave you all with a parting thought. Embrace your inner critic. Embrace it. What do I mean by that? Challenge it and recognize its voice. So earlier on, I mentioned a lot of times people, they say, just fight the inner critic, don't listen to the inner critic, and just what would happen if you just accepted whatever negative thoughts come your way? All right, you're about to give a presentation. The thought comes up. You're not good at presenting. Wait a minute, you failed before. Don't you remember last year when you tripped on stage? Let's say, for instance, you want to start a new business. You don't have the money to do this. I mean, what do you think about so and so? What I would invite you all to do, and this is advice for myself too, challenging whatever thoughts come your way and truly recognizing the voice. That's the key here. Sometimes people, they get this inner critic, they think it's themselves, but maybe it might be their mothers. Maybe it might be their fathers. Maybe they think it's their friend speaking to them. Maybe it's their ex. Maybe it's whoever. So listening to whoever is speaking, is it me who's really talking? Is it me that's actually saying these negative things? Am I beating myself up? Or is someone trying to push me down? Recognize those voices, challenging it. And even, let's just say that there are those negative thoughts. These are opportunities to improve, no? Maybe there are red flags you never thought of. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's true that you fell down on the stage 3 years ago. Okay, so then maybe you can say, well, what can I do next time to improve? Well, let's say, yeah, maybe you had a business that failed. Okay, great. What went wrong? So embracing your inner critic rather than shutting it out is, I think, the way to go. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this whole, people are, if you're tired of people blaming people all the time, man, it's not going to stop. Like in the day of judgment, people are doing it. So don't expect people to just, like Brother Maruf mentioned, you have the mark of adulthood is as accountability and responsibility. Look, I messed up. I'm sorry. How can I resolve this? That's a mark of an adult. A child is always saying, but he did it. Well, she did it. Well, what about this? And so if, people do that with one another, now we're going to be fighting. If you have no one else to blame, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to you're on your own. So who are you going to fight now? You're going to even blame your companion jinn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assigned you. So some people just are all over the place. So just say, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it to us. How do I know? Rasulullah told us. How do I know? Look at the reference. Rasulullah told us this. Fine. So I know for a fact that I'm going to be in this situation. So how do I make sure this whole situation, mashallah, Sister Hodan mentions Surah An-Nas. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing. One way to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us. You're familiar with Surah An-Nas, yes? I'm sure this is one, the very final.
Last surah.
Yeah, 114. For those of you who may not be Muslim and watching this, it's the 114th surah of the Quran. It's something that's generally recited over and over. It's one way to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for protection. So at the end of the day, embracing your inner critic, I would say, is the way to go. Being more productive. Otherwise, if you're not your own cheerleader, who else will? And so, alhamdulillah, I really appreciate all of you who attended this. Next week, this is a 12-week session. So we're on week 2. Now next week is going to be week 3. A little teaser here. It's about building resilience. Now, we talked all about acknowledging, your inner critic, but times are tough, aren't they? Things aren't easy. The pandemic's already been here for about 2 years and people are still having hard times coming to grips with it. How can you and I build that resilience, build up that fortitude, that mental fortitude, so that way, whatever comes our way, whatever obstacles, that we can overcome it in the best way possible. And so that's what I would invite you. You're more than welcome to attend next week. And last but not least, if you like what you see, and this is my humble invitation to you, kalam.ca/free. What is that all about? This would be an opportunity for you who's watching this. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. Like, the good news is that with virtual, there's no geographic barriers. You can have a free 30-minute session with yours truly. And with this whole, you're more than welcome to view the website. We have I have different options. We have the individual coaching program, where it's 12 weeks. We divide it up. We divide it up into communication with yourself, communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, communication with others. At the end of the day, no strings attached here. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. On the one side, you might be thinking, well, how can I communicate better with my spouse? Well, actually, maybe at the end of the day, it might be communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's the concern. So you never know. It's like when you go to a doctor, you want the doctor to diagnose, right? So That's that's the analogy to think of it. So that's what my humble offer to you. This is going to be a recording, so if you're watching this is an offer to you as well. And by all means, feel free to leave your questions. And so, mashallah, I think that's that for
I want to make a quick note to end this, so the people understand. You see, I will give a better idea why we are doing the whole thing, why we are showing up every Jum'ah, giving you, inshallah, this 30-minute, 45-minute things. I want to share with all of us that one thing I learned in life: we are not doing this to inspire you. What I mean by that, if you want to get inspiration, go to Mufti Link. MashaAllah, he's an amazing job. He's amazing inspirational quotes. We are not here to inspire you. And then we're not doing this to give you information either. If you want information, open the internet. You can find everything you see here, or go to Sheikh, maybe Sheikh Yasser Qadi, Omar Suleiman, other guys. They have so much knowledge. Ruhai Web, MashaAllah, they have so much knowledge. It's not the purpose here. We are not few or anything like that. So why are we doing this? Is this, whoever watching this, I want to ask you just one question. Look at your life. Are you happy where you are? Are you doing the things you want to do? Like, here's the thing. And all of us, right, as humans, I believe most of humans are well-intentioned creatures, right? We want good. I don't see someone that wanting themselves specifically bad things happen. Like, no one does it. We all well-intentioned people. However, what happens is there's a gap between what you really want and where you are. Look at that gap. If that gap is very small, it will never be the same. It will never be perfect. I know. If you're doing what you really love, if you're following, if you know your purpose in life, if you're following that is your passion and making an amazing living, and you're doing a phenomenal job, kudos to you. We celebrate you. We congratulate you. May Allah bless you even more, right? However, what I've noticed from my life and many of us, that we are not at that state. Most of us like decades away from that state. So if you are in that state, instead of just watching this and moving on, scrolling your screen, I want to ask you that one question. This, all we're doing is just to help you take an action, right? Take the first step and say, you know what, enough is enough. I don't want to live the life. Do you remember I told you, it's not about the just living, just as almost, I want to live the life to the fullest. How can I do that? The first thing is to fix the communication. This is the first part. Just all you can do, take an action right now. There's no better action right now. Right now, go to kalam.ca/free, book a time with Brother Muhammad. That's exactly why we are doing this session. When he introduced us, like we worked like a month or two. First, he wanted to do, mashallah, he wanted to do public speaking. We said, you know what is the one thing we want to help Ummah is that the communication part. For many people, communication is talking to others. No, it's much deeper than that. It starts with yourself, then your communication with a higher power, higher source, and then comes to other people, right? But unfortunately, even in the general market, even Muslims, we don't take these things. Many people talk about mindset. This is what it is. But we're just calling it kalam and internal dialogue, but this is what it is. So if that is something you want to take action, do not delay it, because you never know when it's time to go, right? You don't just, this is what difference is between people who take action and improve their lives. This is the name of the game, right? Our job in the game is that we want to be a bit better, not a whole lot probably, but better today than you were yesterday. If you want to do that, today's action, take the action. Just take a session with Brother Muhammad and figure out if you need help to improve your inner dialogue, to improve your mindset, to make huge improvements, inshallah, in the days and the months to come. With that one, I want to end it. I know, so we are over time, but that's it for today. And we'll look forward to see you, inshallah, in the next Juma. Anything else you want to add, anybody? That's it for today, I guess.
Sounds like it. So Jazakallah khair, Brother Maruf. Really appreciate the vote of confidence and for really encapsulating what Kalam is all about. A lot of times people, you want to merge between the best of both worlds. You see lots of communication programs, phenomenal. You'll get a ton from that. Anchoring it with the Quran and Sunnah, you're mixing, or you're merging, I should say, faith or revelation to reality. That's the whole game here. So kalam.ca/free. Jazakallah khair, Brother Maruf, for everything. Sister Hodan, it looks like we're good to go. And again, see you until next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.